Each one of us grapples with their own internal struggles each and every day. We struggle with who am I, why am I here, am I really aware? Not me. Today I'm here at the Serene Isha Foundation, wherein I genuinely feel at peace with myself. I'm here with the Doyen who has inspired, illuminated the lives of millions of people across the world. Shri Sadhguruji.
Hey, Doyen means that makes me very old. Why are you saying such things, huh?
Sadhguruji, what does your typical day look like?
Oh, I haven't had a typical day in a long time because every day, pandemic has a little made me sleep at home. Otherwise, in the last nearly 30+ years, I have not stayed home for more than 3 to 4 days at a stretch. If I sleep on the same pillow 2 nights, it's a luxury. So there has not been a typical day for me to figure out what is a typical day. Every day is insanely out of whack. I keep the situations insane and I myself sane. How's that?
Sadhguruji, all of us, millions of us across the world have you to answer our questions. What about you? Who do you go to when you're searching for answers?
There was a time as a child, I think most people develop their questions much later, so they last much later in their life. For me, by the time I was 4 or 5 years of age, I had 1 billion questions floating around my head like a dark cloud all the time. So I shot the questions everywhere. I didn't get one single sensible answer anywhere. Everybody was referring to books, everybody was always talking about… as if everybody who is wise must be dead. That's how everybody was talking. So my questions tormented me too early and I came to a place where my question machine was handled. So I don't suffer any questions anymore, I'm crystal clear. That is, I developed a way of looking at life, that if I look at something intensely enough, it's very clear to me what it is. It doesn't matter what is the opinion around, it doesn't matter who thinks what, it doesn't matter what information I have in my head, but I see things just the way they are. Because this is what I'm trying to bring to people, not a philosophy, not an ideology, but just clarity, just being able to simply see things the way they are. Because this is what is most valuable, that you must… if you see everything the way it is, how to navigate that situation is a question of competence, question of various things available to you at that given moment. But you see it very clearly the way it is, not as an opinion, not because you like it, not because of who you are, simply for what it is. So I don't suffer questions anymore.
Wonderful. Get up and walk a bit. Sadhguruji, what has amazed me, I've been here now for… this is my 2nd day here, and one thing that really connected with me was your connect with the youth. You are contemporary not only in your thinking but in terms of connecting with the current day youth today. How do you manage?
Well, because I'm youthful, it's natural.
I agree with that, absolutely.
And see, the problem is, most people, their understanding today, unfortunately, of a spiritual person or a spiritual leader means, one thing is, he must have fallen out of a book, first thing. But spirituality is not about a book, that's called scholarship, all right? You read a book and you know the book, that's called scholarship, that is not called spiritual process. Spiritual process means within you, you have started experiencing life beyond the limitations of your own physiological and psychological processes. Right now, your questions, your confusions, your struggles are all just your psychological process, isn't it? So, essentially it means like this, you create a thought and then you suffer that. You create an emotion, then you suffer that. What is the logic behind this? Where is the intelligence, I'm asking? The only excuse we have, everybody is like this only. Everybody being like that doesn't make it any better or any more intelligent. So spiritual process means this, that you're above your own physiological and psychological processes. Once you're above your physiological and psychological processes, you're beyond suffering, because you have only two types of suffering, physical and mental. Do you have any other suffering? Does anybody know any other form of suffering?
No.
Oh, some people believe they'll go to hell and suffer, that's their choice. Because they have suffered so much here, they have extended it beyond that also. Generally, death is a relief from all this nonsense but they think they will suffer beyond also, that's up to them. But essentially, there is only physiological and psychological suffering, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So if you are a little above that, if you create a little space with that, this is the end of suffering. Once you're free from suffering, only when you're free from suffering, will you dare to walk full stride in your life. Otherwise, right now people's idea of life is, if they're 1 inch faster than the person next to them, they think they're a big success. No, success is not about being better than somebody. Unfortunately, we've set those standards. Here we are running a school where there's no competition, there's no marks, there's no grading. It is done for the teacher's sake, to understand how much to reach out to a particular child. But they will never know how they're graded, where they are. All of them will be nurtured. Because this is a very wrong way of putting one against the other. In the kindergarten itself, who is number 1, who is number 2, who is number 3? This is the end of it. I'm always aspiring how to be better than you. If I can't, I'm seeing how to make you worse than me. What kind of life is this? Unfortunately, we've built a whole world like this. So this is very important, that if you're above your… if there is no possibility of suffering in you, if you become beyond suffering, then you can look at life just the way it is, not worrying about who is doing what, or somebody is doing better than me, worse than me. These concerns won't exist within you. Just this one thing happens to a human being, tremendous amount of one's intelligence and energy and capabilities are just available to do wonderful things, every human being. Here I can show you, today, people have been here for 10, 20 years, 30 years now, many of them. They all came here when they're either late teens or early 20s, like that. I can show you people where for the last 5, 10 years, they have not had a moment of irritation, anger, agitation, struggle, nothing. They're just fine. And they're not living in a cave. They're busy doing variety of activity, all right? And you will see people come here without any qualification, without any capability in their life. They will come within a couple of years, they take up big things and do it, because they are unhinged from their own suffering mechanism. Once there is no suffering, only then you can walk full stride. Otherwise, you're always half a step in your life. The fear of suffering.
Sadhguruji, you just talked about success, what it means to different people. I have myself struggled with my definition of success. I spent decades trying to pursue billions and millions, and then somewhere around 2003, I suddenly discovered that everything I was pursuing was seemingly an illusion. And I changed my thought process and I thought, look, I'm going to be in the business of trying to make people happy, the underprivileged happy.
See, you're just under a coconut tree. It can enlighten you. See, there are ripe coconuts. They're capable of doing things to you, so you better get the point in life, okay? Otherwise, life will teach you in very tough ways. About billions and millions, too many people are committed to this. I am also committed to billions, but I am committed to billions of people. This was my thing. When I first, almost nearly 40 years ago now, I suddenly realized, if I take my hands off my mind, suddenly every cell in my body bursts out with ecstasy, dripping ecstasy. I experimented in so many ways, then I knew for sure, this is it. If you distance yourself from your mind and simply sit here, every cell in the body will ooze ecstasy. Then I sat down and made a plan. Who wouldn't want this, you know? That you can sit here without doing anything, simply you're ecstatic. Then I sat down and made a plan. At that time, the world's population was 5.6 billion people. I made a 2.5-year plan. In 2.5 years, I will make the whole world ecstatic. I really believed I'll do it. See, 40 years. Well, today we've touched over 2 billion people, but that's not my idea of the world. Now the populations have increased, inching towards 8 billion. So, I will die a failure, but a blissful failure. This is what I bless you also. You must also die a failure. Because what is success? You set up a petty goal for yourself, you reach there and pump your hands, I got there, this is it, I made it. This is silly for what human potential is. In your life, you should never reach what you dream of, because otherwise it simply means your dreams are too small, isn't it? So this is my blessing to everybody. May your dreams not be fulfilled in this life. That means your dreams must be big enough. And your dreams should be beyond your expectations. Your dreams must be beyond what you know right now. And you cannot dream that. So it's best that always there is something still to be done, but it'll all be never done, all right? But if you aimed at something which is that big, you took a few steps in your lifetime, somebody else will take the next few steps. That is when life happens at its best. Do petty things, I get little more money than you and pump my hands, I did it, I'm the winner. This is a silly way to exist. Unfortunately, the world has gone this way.
So Sadhguruji, in the corporate world, do you think the corporate world is doing enough?
No, what is that other world? Corp world, what is that? There's only one world as far as I'm concerned.
I agree. Well, let me rephrase that question. Do you think business leaders are doing enough in terms of trying to help the underprivileged, help the world? Do you think trickle-down economics will ultimately work? Do we need to do more? And if yes, what should we be trying to do to help the underprivileged, help the world become a better place?
See, you cannot help the world to be a better place if you don't become a better human being. So what is a better human being? So you make billions of dollars and give out a few $1 million. Well, in the society, those who are in desperate need of money will think you're a very better human being because they got the money, all right? The money that they didn't have, they got it. So it's not good to judge people like this. Like, see, a soldier is out there to fight a war for his country, to protect his country. Well, does he go out of his way and kill people wantonly? Or does he kill just to the extent it's needed for the safety of his nation? There's a question mark, isn't it? But telling a soldier, you must be compassionate. Yes, when the enemy has fallen, you must be compassionate. But when the enemy is pointing his gun at you, you don't be compassionate, you need to fight because that's your job. Similarly, for a businessman, he needs to generate profit, all right? Because this is a marketplace. We could have structured a world differently, but we have not. We have to work with the existing structures. This is a marketplace. The whole country is the whole world is a marketplace right now. In everything, people are thinking economics. Nobody is even discussing weather anymore, even in England. They're only talking about the stock market and the prices of the different stocks. So, when the world has been built in this direction, now to say profit is bad all of you serve the society, give it out, do this, do that, that's individual, okay? Individual people can do what. I would say as long as you're paying your taxes and you're running the company well to produce something that's useful in the world, it's fine with me. I wouldn't insist that somebody should do something philanthropic. That is on a personal level. On the business level, no. I must tell you this, all our projects benefit hugely because of the CSR rules in the country. But I'm the one who always spoke against it. I said, building a school, building a hospital, building this, building that, if it is needed, it must be built as a business too. Or if that is not possible, it must be built by the government. Now, when I start the business, you say, okay, 30% tax. I agreed and I started the business. But the moment I start making money, you said 2% more, 2% more, 2% more. This is not a fair deal. Like this, you cannot sustain the world. You cannot sustain the goodness to continue if you do like this. Instead, you say, you run schools with no profit, no loss, but you run. If you can't run, hire an NGO or somebody who's willing to run, or even if you make profit in that, it's okay, run with good quality education. This is how it should be, because now you take a step towards a market economy kind of thing, but every 2 steps you hesitate and want to take a backward step. It's not going to work. Or you must become a socialist nation where, everything is for everybody. As an idea, it's a most wonderful idea, but unfortunately, we have not been able to work that, whatever reasons, all right? Human beings are still not there where they will simply share out of their love for each other. So, market economy is the only way. It is just that the administration should be constantly watching the businesses and make the necessary laws to see that everybody benefits from the success of large businesses. But you tell me one rule, when we start the game you tell me one rule, halfway through if I'm winning you make a different rule, this is not going to work. This is not going to work for anybody.
Sadhguruji, last time I met you, you said something that remained in my mind for a very long time and is still there. You said, it's spread love, not just compassion. Till that moment, I really always confused love with compassion. And it just occurred to me as you said it, that they seem that love and compassion are two different things in a way. And
see,
I really started
the way compassion is understood. Today, a normal understanding of the word compassion is that it is kindness, right? Kindness is only valuable to a person who's fallen. A man who's standing doesn't want anybody's kindness, isn't it?
Absolutely.
If somebody is trying to be very kind to you, you don't like it. Only when you're fallen, you ask for kindness. So, in that context I said, how I would see compassion is, compassion for me is an all-inclusive passion. If you have passion, it is with one person or one thing or something like that, it's exclusive. If your passion is for everything, the very way you breathe is passionate. If that is your idea of compassion, compassion is a fantastic thing, all right? But right now people understand compassion as kindness. Kindness is not a good thing. It is only good when somebody is fallen. It's only good when somebody is weak. It's only good when somebody is subjugated in some way, you lift them, that is kindness. But that also can be done joyfully without making them feel they've been helped. I make sure around me, nobody feels that I'm doing anything good. I generally make myself brash, little arrogant and everything so that nobody feels I'm doing any good to them. But my whole life is committed to them, all right? It's very important that you don't make people feel indebted in some way. Because, oh, I've done all this for you, I've done all this for you, This everybody is doing, even the parents are doing this to children. They'll do whatever they do. See, for example, most couples, unless they're really mature and they have found something between themselves also, without children they won't last long. So, child is like gave a fresh lease of life to everything that they are. This new bundle of joy came into their life and they laughed, they sang, they did things they would never do, by then they'd become glum. But now the child grows up and starts doing their own things, what they want to do. If they're doing something life-damaging, of course you have to stop them. But if they're doing what they want to do and it's good for them, then you will say, hey, how much I did for you? You're not listening to me. So, this process has to go, because if it is out of your love, it's a privilege that you got an opportunity to do. If it's out of your kindness that you did, you're always keeping accounts of all the things that you have done, and one day you will pull out the list and put it in my face.
Sadhguruji, I was reading about Save the Soil movement, the leadership that you've taken in that area worldwide. And I didn't know things like that. An orange, today the orange that we eat, the nutrition value in that orange, I need 20 oranges to match the orange nutrition value.
1 to 8.
1 to 8.
Yeah.
That amazed me. So do you feel that what can business leaders do to embrace what can the leadership do to embrace the soil movement? How can we contribute towards the Save the Soil movement?
See, one thing is, in certain countries, a certain amount of agriculture is in the hands of the corporate or the business. But I'm not sure about the actual number, but out of 51 million square kilometers of land which is under plough right now, I doubt even if it's 5%. I don't know the number, I'm just saying that large corporations hold… How much land, agricultural land do they hold? I doubt if it's too much. It can't be more than 5% in my opinion, but I could be wrong. So, we are always looking at things like this. First thing we must decide is, are we doing something for our satisfaction, or are we doing something to find a solution? So if you want to find a solution, it is very important the farm or agricultural practices have to become more positive. That can only happen if this is instituted in the policy. It doesn't matter in whose hands the land is. Because generally we have found the individual farmer has destroyed the land significantly because of ignorance, because of his economic limitations. But in the large businesses who own agricultural lands, not everybody, but many of them have completely destroyed it because they're thinking in terms of input and output, okay? They are not looking at land with a certain involvement and engagement. They're not looking at land as life. It's taken me months of talking to all kinds of people to make them understand this is living soil. How is soil living? They think it's a bunch of chemicals. Soil is alive, replete with life. In fact, the very life that you are is a consequence of what's happening there. It's just a reflection. You're not the real life, that's the real life. This is a manifestation of that. Just because we are not rooted like a tree and we're walking about, we're missing the whole point. So it's taken months of endless amount of talking to people to make them understand this is a living soil. I think especially in corporations, that is completely missing. Individual farmers also it's missing, but because they live on the land, they know to some extent. Because most of them traditionally have lived on the land and they have a traditional experience. Even today if they have forgotten, they have that feeling for the land, they understand that there is this a certain amount of life there. So understanding and bringing this back is important. So what can businesses do? As I said, the land that they hold is very small. They cannot do anything with somebody else's land. First of all, this is something I've been speaking for last 20 years. See, the businesses have this tag that they're ruthless, at any cost they will make profit, they don't care about a damn thing, anything around them happens. This tag has to go because businesses are growing in size. Many businesses are larger than a whole lot of nations in their budgets and stuff. When businesses are growing like this, see, if you look back on the history of this world, you can look at it this way. There was a time when the religious leadership dominated every nation, at least in Europe, in the West. Not so much here, but in the rest of the world. Later on, as military machines built up, then military leaders started dominating the world. But in the last 75 to 100 years, democratically elected leaders are dominating the world. They make all the… they call all the shots. Well, it's just a question of another 25 years, you watch it, already it's happening, where the business leaders will call the shots as to how nations should be run, already beginning to happen in many ways. You can call it lobbying, this, that, but they're deciding a whole lot of things. But right now among the people, there is such mistrust about businesses because they think once they come there, they'll do just about anything to profit. So, somewhere the businesses have to transform themselves if they have to really seriously take this leadership into their hands, if they have to craft it. I would prefer businesses are in charge of the world, because one thing good about the business is, they are not discriminatory. It doesn't matter you are this religion, that race, this race, whatever, you want to sell your safety pin or your computer or your spacecraft to them, all right, whatever you make. Because business is kind of A, racial stuff, A, religious stuff, you know. That one massive problem will be solved if businesses dominate. But they have to shed this albatross that they're carrying around their neck, which is not completely without reason, that they are ruthless and they don't care about anybody else except themselves. This has to be… tag has to be shed. It's a generational thing. This generation has to strive for that. Many businesses have come forth, as I have also been mentoring various business leaders personally at many levels. Many of them are quietly structuring their businesses, not doing CSR, not doing philanthropy, but structuring their businesses in such a way it's beneficial for a lot of people. The simple thing is, everybody needs, you know, a reliable workforce. It has not been done, a few people are, you know, doing some things. Simple thing is, in India there are 700 plus districts. Aren't there 700 businesses in this country or outside which can take the education, skill development, the works of the population for one district? A whole lot of people can do it. Maybe they don't have the wherewithal to do it by themselves, they can always partner with somebody and do that. Money-wise, it's not big deal, but what will happen is that entire district's population will be loyal to you. You will get top-class, you know, human resource. Human potential can be developed in such a way, and you know, I've spoken to the governments and everything that this standard education policy should go. We are already doing this in this school. Here we have a few mentors, we still wanted to start a whole school like that. We have not been able to do it because, you know, these schools, they just don't make money. We just spend on it because we are committed to a certain kind of education. In this large premises of nearly 70 acres plus, we have only 340 children. That's a limit I've set. We will not increase that number. We can just put up more buildings, look at the space. We can put up a lot of buildings and add a… you know, if people had 70 acres in the city, 5 acres, they have 10,000 children, some of them, okay? So, because we are committed to a certain kind of education, certain quality and wanting to produce leadership, here we are doing this. Let us say we take out 12 children who are very good with mathematics. So we put a very high quality mentor for them. 80% of the time they do only math. Other subjects are all just relegated to just a small little bit. Because if you don't invest early on into what their aptitude is, simply studying everything that is no good for them is just going to block up and they'll make wrong choices when they come to the right time in their life. And above all, certain basic skills, certain sciences, if they don't develop early on, you will not really produce a great country, you know. It won't happen like that, you won't produce… Because the only thing in this country especially, the only thing you really have is population. If you develop human beings who are skilled, competent, focused, stable kind of human beings, well, with 1 billion people we can cause a miracle. The same population, if it's unfocused, unskilled, incompetent, oh, it's a great disaster unfolding. We're doing both, but I think in terms of enhancing the quality of the human beings, we have not done enough work. Scale is too big for any individual organizations to do that, and the financial requirements are so high. So only 340 children we are training in this school, we are starting another one in Bangalore. So we have rural schools, they are run differently. There are a dozen plus schools are there. And we have the Samskriti, as you saw they perform. They are incredible children. But that is a parental commitment if they want to send their children that way. So there also from the age of 6, they are just becoming experts in something that they choose to do. The most important thing is to produce capable human beings who will make everybody's life good, you know. If you do not produce enough of them, you don't expect everybody will flourish. No, it will not happen like that. Well, oh, Sadhguru, you're making discriminatory. Arey, I've seen life. You got policies in your head. I've known life. Not everybody will fly to the same height. We can make everybody fly, but not everybody will fly to the same height. You do what you want. That'll not happen because there are some intrinsic issues. So, investing in people who will naturally be a source of many things for the rest of the society is very, very important.
Sadhguruji, what about on the topic of save the soil? If I am a lower middle class or a middle class person who's thinking, I want to contribute to the cause, how do I do it? What can I do differently?
See, depending on who you are, you can do many different things. If you are a middle class, lower middle class, see right now reaching the farmer through this movement is very hard, okay? Maybe in some countries you can. In this country, you cannot, because how many of them are on social media, how many of them have a reach? You can't go and knock on each door and tell them this. We will be doing that in some states where we have a connect. In Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, we will do that. But you can't do that across the country or across the world, definitely. You can't go knock on every hut in Africa and try to teach them how to do soil. So we right now focused only on policy change, because once it gets enshrined in the policy, it's for good, that's one aspect of it. Another thing is, slowly the needed budgets and the focus of the government will inevitably go that way. So, at this point, we just want people's voice to stand up and speak. From March 21st for 100 days, we want everybody to speak. Ordinary people who have no resource, they must use their voice. Those who have resource must help, or they must do it by themselves to enhance the message in the world. Because this is the first time in the history of humanity that we can stand here and talk to the entire world. Never before was this possible. Many great beings have come, but when they spoke, hardly 10 people could hear. This is the first time. At a time like this, when we have tools and technologies to reach the entire world, if we don't transform this world, it shows that we simply don't care enough.
Sadhguruji, you're going to be riding a bike for 30,000 kilometers from London to…
Kaveri.
To Kaveri?
Kaveri Basin.
Is it to bring attention to the cause of saving the soil? What do you think you're trying to achieve through that?
See, along the way, we fixed up appointments with various heads of state, agriculture ministers, environment ministers, and we have a policy document, a general policy document with special additions for each country. And I'm going there for 4 days, traveling to almost 8 to 9 countries, and we'll be signing MOUs with the thing. The MOU is just about this, that they're committed to look at the soil and ecology policy long term. We have written to 730 political parties in the world to make them understand they have to bring this into their political agenda, into their election manifestos, because we are going to move 3 to 3.5 billion people in the world. When 3.5 billion people, which simply means 60% of the world's electorate, is saying, yes, we are concerned about soil, if you're running a political party, you will be a dinosaur by not paying attention to that. So this is what we are trying to do. The idea of this motorcycle ride is just that. Tell me, if I go down, fly into different countries, you think all these doors will open? No, they have to see that I'm staking my life a bit otherwise they won't open their doors. So till now the response has been fantastic actually from most nations. So, but now this Central Asian war is happening. Little people are distracted. Hopefully in the next few days it should come to some kind of agreement or settlement. If not a full settlement, at least slowdown of military operations should happen, I believe, in the next 4 to 5 days. When the forces have had their advantageous position, I think they will talk better to each other, probably. Hopefully it will stop at the earliest, because one thing is causing so much suffering to everybody. But at any cost, war is not an option. Nuclear weapons should never be an option. But unfortunately, major powers have not committed to, at some point, dismantling these nuclear weapons. Nobody's committed to it yet. So the question is always, you got it, so I won't keep it down. I got it, so you won't keep it down. Somewhere, I hope wisdom will arise in the immediate future, where we all agree and shelve these things completely. But that doesn't look like going to happen, because everybody is trying to take advantage of somebody. We are not seeing how to flourish together. We want to flourish at your cost. That's become the way of the world. So when it happens between two people, it may not make news, but when it happens between major nations, the level of suffering that you unleash. Everybody believed after World War II nobody is ever going to start another war, because the suffering that the humanity took was such. People really believed after World War II there will be no wars, because we formed the UN agencies and everything. This is it. Just see how many wars have happened in 21st century. Since 2000, see how many wars in 22 years. Continuously wars. All big players involved in everything, right? So…
Where is the world headed? And that's, Sadhguruji, my next question, which is, we see the pandemic has happened, the COVID pandemic, and now we see a war. We just talked about war, the Ukraine war happening, and the world taking aligned positions, different parts of the world. And we as human beings, should we be worrying about our future, or where are we headed with this?
See, if the issues are of real estate, issues are of a little bit of wealth or something, we can sit down, talk and settle something. Okay, I take this, you take that, we'll exchange something and manage. When the issues of endemic hatred, either because of race or religion or nationality, you found many reasons as to why you hate somebody. When issues of hatred are there, when human emotion is so invested in a negative sense, very hard to stop these things. Human evolution need to happen on an individual level. But as I said, I aimed for making 5.6 billion people, which was a population, ecstatic. But here I'm still blissful. There are many millions of them. Today we You know, our video reach has been some 2.2 billion or something last year. So, we are reaching people. Leadership, we need to reach big time. Unfortunately, the nature of political leadership has become such that unless you know how to elbow your way through everything, you don't get there, all right? So when you have gotten there with so much elbowing around, when you get there also you do the same thing. You don't know how to stop it. So, as you get more and more empowered, your negative emotions and limited way of looking at life takes bigger and bigger toll. Human competence has become a major problem, just look at this.
Sadhguruji, I always hear this proverb that coffin doesn't have a pocket, and yet I come across people in their late 80s at times, or who are worrying about property, wealth, and why? Meaning, how does a human being get over their materialistic pursuits of realizing that, well, I need to live my life? What do we do differently?
Well, there's no container service in the end, but everybody's going on with this. We are always teaching morality, don't be greedy, don't do this, don't do that. It's not worked. Why are we going on doing things which are not worked? Just look at it this way. Have you noticed, on a certain day, if you're really, really happy, you're joyful, your needs have come down significantly. That's what we need to do. We've been trying to produce good people, moralistic people. No, we need to produce joyful and sensible human beings. That's what is most needed for the world. And that is this inner engineering is that work, mainly focused towards producing sensible and really joyful human beings. When they're joyful, see how wonderful human beings are to each other. When they're miserable, oh, they do terrible things to each other. If you look at it in terms of any human being, is there any human being here who doesn't want to be joyful? Is there any human being here who doesn't want to have a good life? No. In intent, everybody is online. They're on track. Execution is the problem, isn't it? They have no means to execute. How do I become joyful? Oh, but he said this, she said that happened, this happened. Why are they not able to execute such a simple thing? I want to be happy. I want to be peaceful. Why is such a thing not happening? Obviously, no tools, no technology. This is why inner engineering is very important. Why I have committed my life to this. Committed my life means there's nothing else in our lives, just that. 7 days of the week, 365 days, nearly 20 hours a day non-stop, because if this one thing happens, people know how to be peaceful and joyful by their own nature. Then they will know accumulation is not the way to go about life, because it's not going to get you anywhere. You need to have what you need to have so that every day you don't have to go begging around, that's a different matter. But accumulation for the sake of enhancing your life should not happen. Accumulation for usage must happen, all right? For a month's rice you got in your store, you must have, otherwise every day you will go to the store, all right? You must have some money in the bank so that every day you don't have to go and earn your daily labor. So, having things for use, having things to make ourselves effective in the world is one thing. Having things or accumulating things just to feel better is a terrible thing, because there's no end to that. I can give you the mountain if you want right now. These mountains are yours. Hello? Why are you accumulating small things? But the problem is, people are trying to be happy with accumulations. So they don't have houses anymore, they have warehouses for themselves. So the problem is just this lack of joy within themselves. One who is joyful will have things to the extent it's necessary, never more, never less, because why would he carry a burden that he doesn't need?
Thank you, Sadhguruji, for
Namaskar.
the enlightening
Thank you very
experience.
much.
Yeah. Thank you. been a rather surreal experience just to be here to interview and speak to Sadhguru ji. I can just sum it up in a few words. This has been the most enlightening experience for me to be here.